Wuthering Waves as a game is a game that I know is very much inspired by Genshin Impact. It's an open world gacha game that has very similar rates and has systems that are very similar to Genshin Impact. It's no secret that it's actually inspired by Genshin Impact, the same way that Genshin Impact is inspired by Breath of the Wild and some other games that also play some influence into getting this game out. But Wuthering Waves decided to do something that is very unlike Genshin. They ended up the version 1 series of the game at just 4 patches. That's extremely very strange. Genshin would normally have this running all the way up to 8 or 9 patches before we actually see the next major version of the game. So in this video, I want to actually look into why this version of the game didn't actually get all the way to version 1.8 or version 1.9. So with that said, let's get straight into the video. Now, this patches thing is not the only thing that Wuthering Waves has actually done differently from Genshin Impact. When we talk about the live streams, which I've actually made a video on, you can see that they have not been following the exact same pattern that Genshin has. Normally, Genshin would have a live stream for every single patch that comes out for the game in order to raise hype for the game. But in our case, we've only gotten 2 live streams for the game. One at the launch of the game, and one when the Black Show started, and I suspect that we'll probably get another live stream before Renacita actually drops. By the way, if I mispronounce Renacita, I'm very sorry, I'm trying my best. So before we get into the video, TLDR of what exactly I'm going to talk about, there's this theory that I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was on Twitter, and if I see it, I'll put it up on stream, but it was a theory about Genshin Impact version 1 actually being a beta test, sort of like a CBT3 for the game, and then version 2 of the game is actually where the game actually starts. And this is technically everything that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So if you don't want to stay for however long this video is, then you're free to click off now, but let's actually get into this. What exactly makes something a beta test? And I wanted to look into whether version 1 of the game actually serves or comes very close to the description of a beta test, so we can actually say that this game is actually a beta test and then we should be expecting something new in Renacita. There are many descriptions of a beta test that you can actually use for this video, but for this video, I decided to focus on the Oxford Dictionary's definition. Now, this dictionary defines it as a trial of machinery or software, this machinery or software being in its final stages of development, and the trial itself is normally done by a party that's unconnected to the developers, and some other definitions will actually tell you that it's done to get feedback and also enable the devs know whether these things that are available are things that are acceptable in the public eye and all of those kinds of things. It's a small scale test. I think that's very understandable. So with this definition at the back of our minds, let's look into version 1 of Wuthering Waves. Is there anything that actually makes it feel like it's a trial version of the game? Well, technically, if we're talking about version 1.0 of Wuthering Waves, then there is quite a few things that we can actually look at that might tell us that Wuthering Waves version 1 must have been a beta test. For one thing, a lot of people could straight up not download the game. Like, I made a video talking about how to actually download and install the game, and if you go through the comments of that, you will see a ton of people having different issues, from different kinds of bugs to different kinds of errors, and that's only talking about installing the game. Some people could actually install the game, but they couldn't actually play, even though they had the proper hardware to actually run the game. I remember that Aru on Twitter wasn't actually able to run the game on launch because of some issues that the game had, and this is just among some other issues. Like on mobile, the game couldn't actually run. It was basically burning people's phones, not literally burning people's phones, but you get the idea. It was not feeling like a game that was actually fully ready to launch. But at the same time, the devs at Wuthering Waves worked day in and day out to get all of these issues resolved as soon as possible. And after a while, by version 1.2, 1.3, things are looking a whole lot better. Some of these issues still exist to this day, but they're not as prevalent anymore, which is good. But using the definition of a beta test that we talked about at the beginning of the video, all of these things that I mentioned about the launch of Wuthering Waves sort of fit into this category. Let's not also forget to mention that aside from all the performance and the launching issues, we had different other issues, from voice lines not being properly done to voice acting itself not actually being properly done, and voice directions feeling very strange at times, and then just tiny little bugs and errors. I think with all of these things, it adds a little bit of credence to that theory that Wuthering Waves version 1 might actually be a beta test. So now the question is, why exactly did the devs of Wuthering Waves, if Wuthering Waves version 1 was supposed to be a beta test, a CBT 3 if you would, why would they actually launch the game at a time? Now there are two theories in my head, and the first one is because I think they actually just wanted to get their foot out the door as soon as possible. You guys have to remember, Wuthering Waves launched during a dry patch in Genshin Impact. So this was around the version 4.6 patch of Genshin Impact, which meant that not a lot of people had a lot of things to do in Genshin Impact at the time. So this was a perfect opportunity to actually just launch the game and have people say, since I don't have much to do in Genshin Impact at this time, let's actually come up to Wuthering Waves and let's try it out. And then the plan was hook these people with the things that we have in Wuthering Waves and keep them coming back as a repeat customer, and potentially have them also be able to spend in the game. Now, I don't actually think that plan went as well as they had planned, but I do think that it's a smart idea, and I love the idea, I love the effort. But if this theory is true, it actually shows, and I think it may have negatively hurt the game just a little bit. And this probably is why they then decided to, instead of actually just full sending it and going with version 1 completely, let's take a step back, make sure that version 2 of the game is actually fully ready for everyone to be able to play and enjoy. And then when people are having another dry patch in Genshin Impact, they can actually come again to try the version 2 update of Wuthering Waves, and this time, surely this time, we'll be able to keep them in. That's my theory on why they decided to do it. I'm actually curious to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Do you guys think this is actually what happened, or do you think that there was something else to it? My second theory has more to do with the story of Wuthering Waves. Now, we all know that the main point of version 1 was the rover trying to find out who they are in the region of Jinzhou, so Huanglong essentially. And by the time we were done in version 1.4, we had essentially explored every single area in Huanglong that had any form of a connection to the rover. So at this point in the story, it makes sense for us to move to another region. So I think that the reason why Kuro then decided to no longer add in more patches is because they just wanted to advance the story more. Now here's the thing. If we go back to Genshin Impact and look at how Genshin Impact does it, Genshin Impact normally has the main story patches come out within the first 4 patches of the game. Sometimes 5, but mostly within 3 to 4 patches of the major versions release. After that, we get filler patches that don't really have anything to do with the main story. Well, that's if I'm not talking about the Dainsleif quests. If we're talking about the Dainsleif quests that come by the 0.6, 0.7 patches, then I guess technically we have 5 patches of main story. But I think you're starting to see where my theory comes. My theory is that Kuro actually decided not to give us more filler patches apart from version 1.2 and just go straight into the main story, and that's the reason why they actually wanted to do this. And I don't know how I feel about this. Honestly speaking, I'm happy because we can go through the story much faster and we can potentially see the end of the story, but then that also means that we'll probably see the end of the main story much quicker than I would have hoped. But then I think that's a good thing, because if we actually just get through knowing who the rover is and why they're so special, then we can move on to explore different things or different kinds of ideas about the world. Maybe something else that is threatening the world that the rover needs to help with, or something else entirely. Like, it doesn't, the entire story for the next 5 to 10 patches doesn't have to be the rover trying to find out who they are. We can get done with that within 2 major patches and then focus on some other things in other patches. Let me hear what you guys think about this theory. I'm actually curious to hear what other people think about this. But I think it's for the best if we get less patches and get quality patches in those things. But with all of that said, I think I'll bring the video to a close here. I think I've dragged on the video long enough, and I'm not really feeling like dragging the video on any longer. So let me know you guys' thoughts about my theories down below. Do you guys actually believe that Kuro Games actually launched Wuthering Waves as a CBT3 and that version 2 is actually when the real game starts? Let me hear your theories down below. By the way, in case you're wondering, I don't actually believe that they did that. I believe that this was the plan all along. I do feel that Wuthering Waves version 1 was a rushed product. I feel like it could have been cooked a little bit more, but they know there are reasons. I can only speculate. With that said, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, NTE, Project Mugen, and Azure Premier videos. Also join the hideout on Discord. Follow me on Twitter for real-time updates on games that you enjoy, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.